estimates and compare. Your home could be worth more than you think. Visit Ownerly.com today.
Johnny Depp and Amber Heard are locked in a very public and very bitter legal battle. The case is now being tried in front of a jury of Fairfax County, Virginia citizens. But way before the jury heard one piece of evidence, the case was already being tried in the court of public opinion, with Amber filing a restraining order in court and taking pictures that ended up on magazine covers, and with Johnny's former attorney speaking out to the press.
Did you speak the words, quote, the end of Ms. Heard's abuse hoax against Johnny Depp?
I'm not sure.
Tonight, we look at how much damage this case and this trial is causing. And we dig deeper into Johnny Depp's drug and alcohol problems. Did they start when he first met Amber Heard while making a movie?
Was Mr. Depp a difficult client to represent?
He wasn't initially, and it became far more complicated.
Plus, testimony today from Johnny's former sexual partner and fellow actor, Ellen Barkin.
He's just a jealous man, controlling. Where are you going? Who are you going with? What did you do last night?
This hour, we are live in Fairfax County, Virginia, with all the big moments from today as Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard continues. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. Johnny Depp and Amber Heard's case, trial, controversy, allegations, however you want to term it, clearly began to bubble during the time in this country when MeToo was sweeping the nation. 2017, guys like Harvey Weinstein, hit with all these allegations of abusive behavior towards women. And what was interesting, while all this was happening, when you had guys like Harvey Weinstein, one accuser would come forward, and then other accusers would be empowered to join them. And all these men who were being accused, it wasn't just one woman accusing one man, it was woman after woman after woman accusing men. And we saw it, and we saw it play out publicly. But in this case with Johnny Depp, it seems like it's been a little different up until this point. Johnny Depp, when he got on the witness stand, I think acknowledged that when he said, why would I start now? Why, as a 50-year-old man, would I all of a sudden start abusing women? And we've heard witnesses say no other women have come forward, etc. A big theme of Johnny Depp's, and it's trying to separate himself from what was happening in 2016, 2017, 2018. And I think part of it is trying to reclaim his reputation, separate himself from people like Harvey Weinstein, and have people look at the case and what happened between him and Amber Heard a little differently. And we're seeing that play out. Now, let's get back to the Harvey Weinstein case, which we covered here on Court TV. And I was up there, and I remember in the hallways, one of the court watchers was Ellen Barkin, actor, Ellen Barkin. I mean, legendary actor for years. High profile, big movies, big star. But she was one of the people standing online in the hallway to get into the courtroom to watch the Harvey Weinstein trial, where they did not permit cameras. Well, she was a watcher in that trial, and now she's a participant in Johnny Depp's trial, because apparently Johnny Depp and Ellen Barkin, former sexual partners. How about that? And then you see a picture of them together back in the 90s. And I say sexual partner because those are her words, her choice that she made to describe the nature of the relationship. It wasn't a romantic relationship, it was a sexual relationship. Well, she testified today via deposition, so the jury got to hear from Johnny Depp's former sexual partner, Ellen Barkin, and her take on Johnny Depp. Take a listen.
how long did your relationship with Mr. Depp remain sexual?
Several months. Anywhere between 3 and 5, 6.
And during that period, how often would you see Mr. Depp? That period when it was sexual?
I'd say I'd see him 3 or 4 times a week.
Did you become aware that he drank to excess?
I was always aware.
Okay, and can you explain how you were aware of that?
He was drunk all the time, a lot of the time.
And that would apply both to when you were initially friends and then later when it became sexual?
Yeah.
And what was he drunk? What was your understanding? What had he drunk to become drunk?
He was a red wine drinker.
Did there come a time, Ms. Barkin, when Mr. Depp acted in a way that was out of control with you?
Yes. Mr. Depp threw a wine bottle across the room, the hotel room on one instance in Las Vegas while we were shooting Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Was something about to happen?
A fight was going on.
Between you and Mr. Depp?
No.
Who was the fight between?
Between Johnny Depp and his friends in the room, the assistant. Honestly, I don't remember.
And the bottle do you remember sitting here today, Ms. Barkin, whether the bottle was full of wine or empty?
I don't.
Sitting here today, Ms. Barkin, do you remember whether the bottle hit you?
No, it did not.
Did the bottle hit anyone else?
No, it did not.
Approximately how far away from you was Mr. Depp when he threw the bottle?
Across the room, so maybe by that break in the table or a little further down. It was a toss.
And
Row.
sitting here today, if the bottle had hit you, would it have injured you?
Sure.
Ms. Barkin, was it your understanding back then that he was throwing the bottle at you?
I don't know why he threw the bottle.
And when he threw it, was it in your direction?
Yes.
Were there other people standing around you?
Yes.
So he threw it in your direction at a group of people?
Yes.
Ellen Barkin playing a role in this trial and recounting a story that goes back to Fear and Loathing. That's the mid-90s we're talking about, where all that took place. Let's bring in Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Painter, joining us live from outside the courthouse in Fairfax County, Virginia. Great to see you, Chanley. What more can you tell us about Ellen Barkin, the nature of this testimony, and some context to what it means?
Ellen Barkin, I guess she brought the Fear and Loathing to Fairfax County, Vinnie. This was a much-anticipated witness, and by video deposition, it was a short testimony, but it made an impact in the courtroom, a recognizable face, and just her demeanor, her attitude, her terse answers, her interrupting the attorney to correct the attorney at certain times. It definitely perked up the jury inside the courtroom, and the gallery, pro-Johnny Depp fans in the gallery had a couple of moments of laughter and murmurs as her testimony played in front of everyone. But her testimony served Amber Heard's defense because it corroborates and reemphasized several of their themes that we've been hearing, is that Johnny Depp was always high and drunk and had problems with potential violence and jealousy. Let's take a listen.
He's just a jealous man, controlling. Where are you going? Who are you going with? What did you do last night? I had a scratch on my back once that got him very, very angry because he insisted it came from me having sex with a person who wasn't him.
During the time that you were in a sexual relationship with Mr. Depp, was it common for him to say things to you about being controlling, to use your words, or being jealous of you?
Yeah, very common.
And in these instances, when Mr. Depp became jealous or controlling, did he also become angry?
Yeah, and demanding.
As you said, Vinnie, it was a short-lived romance. He broke up with her and then sort of ghosted him, to use nowadays terminology. But there was a moment of laughter when she did have to correct. Like you said, this wasn't a romantic relationship. It was a sexual relationship.
Yeah, that was a fascinating part of the testimony, and Johnny's reaction as well inside the courtroom.
Yeah.
A lot of witnesses today. Chanley, what were some of the big witnesses that we heard from?
Yeah, Amber Heard's defense flew through about a dozen new witnesses today, one after the other, which helped kind of pick up the pace a little bit. Like I told you last night, the jury a little bit sleepy. They were still yawning today, but not as much with all the testimony thrown at them. But what this defense did today was to bring in former friends and representatives of Johnny Depp over the past couple of decades, as far as his former talent agent, his business manager, and Adam Waldman, a familiar name, the person who made some statements the defense wants to claim that Depp told him to make that are the basis of Amber Heard's defamation claims against Johnny Depp in her countersuit. So his deposition was played, of course, for this jury. He acknowledged he made those statements, but it was quite a limited testimony because attorney-client privilege. He still represents Johnny Depp. This jury also heard from Tracy Jacobs, the former talent agent for many years, 30 years, represented Johnny Depp, helped make him the most famous movie star in the world, the highest paid, and she sounded a bit disgruntled today that she was fired all of a sudden by Johnny Depp, but she talked about some of those issues of him being difficult to work with on movie sets, showing up late, his struggle with alcohol and drugs, another common theme before this jury. And also, they heard from Johnny Depp's former business manager, Joel Mandel, who really raised some eyebrows in the courtroom when he told the jury how much money that Johnny Depp spent just monthly on staff. For example, he spent around $300,000 a month just on his personal staff. And he talked about how Johnny Depp had some dire financial circumstances over the years. And again, going back to those themes that Johnny Depp's downfall or his loss of movie roles and career, Vinnie, was not due to a 2018 op-ed written by Amber Heard, but his own behavior.
All right, Chanley, we're going to catch up with you in just a little bit, but I want to bring in a special guest joining us now in Orlando, Florida, human behavior expert Susan Constantine back with us. Susan, Ellen Barkin testified today, and I don't have the training, the expertise, the insight that you do, but I'm watching her, and there's something, there's a little bit of an edge to the way she's testifying. Can you unpack it for me tonight, please?
Yeah, so obviously that she has a lot of hostility. I would call her almost a borderline hostile witness. And she has strong history that she has never let go. And that anger is being shown in her. Did you see when she was pursing her lips? That is in how she feels about Johnny Depp. That is her disagreement. She doesn't like him. And then her comments about, no, I did not. Who else said that? Clinton. I did not have sex with that woman. And she's doing the same thing, but when she says it, there is anger in her voice. You can see at times where her eyebrows will kind of pinch together and her facial expressions become much more animated. So this is a woman scorned from way back. Never let it go. It's still haunting her today. And she seems to be enjoying the payback.
So, Susan, you're also a jury expert as well. And the jury's watching this, right? The same way we're all watching it, the jury is watching her. So do you think that the way you explain that is something that they will pick up by watching this? That sort of attitude, that sort of underlying thing? Or do you think they just kind of listen to the words and oh, okay, so Johnny threw a bottle, Johnny was jealous, and that's the takeaway for the jury?
Yeah, so one of the things that I look for, Vinny, is when they're putting that pen to the paper, are they making note of it? Because this is what's really important. They've been watching and listening to this over time. And here's the other thing. Those jurors have heard most of this stuff repeated over and over again. And what I think that they did is they probably peeped up when they heard her because of her attitude. You know, most jurors are very visual. 61% of them are visual. I think it's like 18% are more auditory. So you combine those two, it perks up their attention. And I think the fact that she's a big star, I think that they paid attention to this one. Some of the other ones, they were sleepers.
Now, the one thing that really caught my attention was when she corrected her testimony from the nature of the relationship. It was not romantic. She said romantic first, but then she said, no, not romantic. Can we change that? It was sexual. What are we supposed to take away from that?
Well, when she's telling you, she's defining that, she wants you to understand we did not have a relationship. In other words, that she didn't have this emotional bond with him. Not so much that he didn't have it with her. What she's really saying is, I didn't have it with him. So I want to take control. And I just want to let you know, this is just a fling. It's just sexual. But you know, it's amazing that she would have even admitted it. As a woman, I wouldn't have gone there.
Yeah, it was a fascinating moment. All right, Susan's going to stay with us this hour. When we come back, we're going to talk about when Johnny met Amber, because there was testimony today about Johnny and sort of a change in his life. And this came from people that represented Johnny Depp. And it seems like it is all focused around the time when he met Amber Heard. So we're going to kind of dive through that testimony, dive through that timeline, and try to figure out what was going on.
like him.
Hunter had very specific ideas of what these characters should be. Bruce had been auditioning girls or women for the role of Chenault in the film. So she came to my office. I took one look at her and I thought, yeah, that's the Chenault that Hunter wants.
Well, it was my understanding that he was bringing to life his late friend. And what he told me was that this character is supposed to be the dream woman, like the dream, American dream. And so I knew what he meant. He indicated to me when he told me I got the role that I was that, that I was the dream kid. That's what he said. It was a bit surreal, filming in a place like Puerto Rico. It was beautiful. It takes place in the 50s, so everything really looked beautiful, cars and clothing, the music. It was a very colorful shoot in general. I couldn't have asked for, a better scenario.
The Rum Diary, that's the movie where Johnny Depp meets Amber Heard. First time they meet. 2009 is when all this happens, and they filmed the movie down in Puerto Rico. And this is important because today there was some testimony about the filming of this movie and how Johnny Depp changed after this movie. So the movie is Hunter S. Thompson is his great friend who was this alcoholic, drug addict, but very talented writer and a good friend of Johnny Depp's. And this is kind of the movie that's sort of, like Amber said, bringing his friend to life. So it was a passion project for Johnny Depp. And in this passion project is where he meets Amber Heard. But today, Joel Mandel, Johnny Depp's former business manager, talked about what happened to Johnny after filming this movie with Amber.
My sense of the challenge of this representation and my description of the challenge would change probably sometime around 2010. I say that because it was the time after he had shot the film Rum Diaries, and he had come back from that picture, and what had always been slightly difficulty in arranging meetings became more difficulty. And what I had always experienced as someone who liked to enjoy his wine at the end of the day became consumption that seemed excessive. And the ability to coordinate and find times when he would meet became more difficult. And it became clear over time that there were issues with alcohol and drugs. And that translated into more erratic behavior, more stressful behavior, more times when it was difficult to engage in the kinds of conversations I needed to do my job. And so it became more of a challenge for a variety of those reasons after 2010.
All right, so you're putting that time frame, right? The time frame is when this movie was made and he met Amber. Was it the movie? Was it Amber? What's going on here? Let's listen to Johnny Depp and Amber Heard now describe this use of alcohol and why and the impact it has in their relationship and the violence in the relationship. Take a listen.
I was more inspired by Miss Heard to reach out for a numbing agent because of the constant clashes.
No matter what I did to de-escalate, walk away from him, to confront him, to try to... Nothing I did made a difference. Nothing I did changed his rage at me. Nothing I did changed the violence towards me. Nothing I did calmed him down. And I was constantly doing a juggling act of what kind of version of Johnny I was dealing with. There were different versions of him, and they were drastically different from one another, and even more so than them being different from one another, they didn't even sometimes remember what the other version did or said. They acted almost like independent versions of this person, depending on what combination of drugs and alcohol he was on.
I think we're really at the crossroads of what this trial is about. Are these clashes with each other causing the drug use, or does the drug use cause the clashes? Still with us, human behavior expert Susan Constantine. Joining us now in Los Angeles, California, family law litigator, TikTok lawyer, and host of the Love and Order podcast. Limor Mojdehiyazad is back with us. Be sure to check out her podcast on Spotify and Apple Pods, and you can check her out at TikTok at Lawyer Limor. And joining us in New York City, psychotherapist, host of Talking Live on Facebook Watch and the Bite Side podcast, Dr. Robbie Ludwood. Great to see everyone. All right, Limor, how do you see this issue, and how do you think the jury might see this issue of they filmed together, and that's when everyone now, all of a sudden, after Johnny meets Amber, that's when his behavior changes. So does that support the clashes causing him to go run towards the drug and alcohol, or is he just at this point now picking up the drugs and alcohol and causing these clashes?
Well, it all depends on where the jury's heads are at this point. In order for this testimony to help Johnny Depp, you must believe that alcohol and the pressures of a breakup with the woman you have children with, the pressures of Hollywood, none of those things impacted him. It was just meeting Amber Heard on the set of Rum Diaries, which, that was the honeymoon stage of their relationship, right? They fell in love when they first met. So, it helps him, but it also, I think, helps Amber as well.
Dr. Robbie Ludwood, what's going on in this relationship? And is this relationship the downfall of Johnny Depp, or did she happen to meet him in the midst or the beginning of his downfall?
I do think we are hearing the history of Johnny Depp, and he has a problem with alcohol. And many people in his life have reported that. And perhaps it escalated, having a bad relationship with Amber Heard, but I don't think that Johnny can blame Amber Heard for having a drug and alcohol issue. And I think it's problematic for Johnny if he truly is doing that, because then he's not taking responsibility for his own addiction and addictive behavior.
It's a fascinating issue because there's the violence, the clashes between the two, and the alcohol are connected. Both are saying they're connected. Amber says it's going in one direction. Johnny says it's going in the other. Susan, I want you to take a listen to Johnny Depp here, because this is another fascinating part of this time frame. Is the making of this movie about his friend Hunter S. Thompson, the Rum Diary. Take a listen, because I think, and I have a question on the other side, which is Johnny Depp trying to live the life of his friend, and is that why coming out of this movie, all of a sudden he's drinking more or taking part in more drugs? Let's listen.
Hunter Thompson and I were going through some of his manuscripts of his books that have been published, and then I found this manuscript in one of his boxes, and it was called The Rum Diary, and I had heard about it, and I knew it was what they called his long-lost novel. In fact, the only novel he ever wrote. And I showed it to him, and Hunter was shocked. Oh my God, that's where it is, And so he said, read me some. So I started reading this to him, and he said, this is a movie, we must produce this together. And, he got all excited about the idea of doing that. So we went right into it.
And Susan, the life, I mean, this movie, The Rum Diary, is semi-autobiographical of Hunter S. Thompson, who lived this life of addiction and alcohol and this crazy, crazy life. Do you think that could be the influence, that doing this movie, he got into character, never got out?
I don't know. You know, Vinny, that's kind of far reaching as far as I'm concerned. I don't know if that's the reason why. But what I do know is that when he's rubbing his ear and he's doing this, there is a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of backstory. So we don't really know what he's thinking, but we know what he's feeling. So you connect those feelings with what he is exhibiting, right? Those words that he's talking about. And there is some sort of anticipation that he had, expectation that he had of it. And somewhere along the line, it didn't quite turn out the way he thought it would.
So, Lamar, I want to get back to the timing of all this, because it really struck me. Like, if he is out of control and it has no relation to Amber Heard, that's one thing. But this is from his own manager saying this is when it started. This is when it's, do you think the jury is going to think it's a coincidence that Amber Heard enters his life just at the point where things are falling apart and he's becoming much more out of control with drugs and alcohol?
I think that maybe the jury might feel that there's a direct correlation based on the way it was presented, but it's hard for me to believe that they were actually able to find jurors who don't know Johnny Depp at all, because a 30-year history in Hollywood, you would be able to assume that there is an ebb and flow with drug and alcohol use with almost every Hollywood legend based on what we see in the media, right? And in social media in the last 3 decades. So unless those people are living under a rock and don't understand how Hollywood works and they can't connect the amount of money and fame that this person has, maybe they'll find a direct correlation because of the way it's being presented, right? A lot of people were losing money because of him. He was spending a lot of money, but you know, the foundation and the background in Hollywood, hard for me to believe that they would see the direct correlation that way.
20-year-old men, 5 of them on the jury in their 20s. We'll see. Okay, when we come back, we're going to talk about social media and its impact on Amber Heard. Testimony today from an expert taking a look at what's happening on Twitter. Wow. Don't go anywhere.
UZZLE.com.
Yes, that's true. My Twitter account was suspended.
Do you recall when that was?
Not with specificity, no.
Do you recall why?
Well, I wrote several letters to Twitter to ask why I was suspended for life from their platform. And the response that I received was multiple violations of their policy. So I asked, could they name one example of those multiple violations? And they responded by saying now they were appealing, without my asking them to do so, my suspension. And that's when they sent me another note that I was suspended for life.
All right, that's Adam Waldman. He was originally Johnny Depp's lawyer in this case. And as you heard, the anti-free speech media company Twitter suspended him from life for some of his conduct, whatever he was doing. Not clear to him. But what's interesting, Twitter will soon, looks like, be owned by Amber Heard's ex, right? Full circle, folks. Okay, social media expert took the stand today. Ron Schnell's his name. He kind of looks at data and tries to figure out what it all means and what was happening. And really here talking about Waldman making some statements that were public statements to the press, and then the reaction and what happened on social media, specifically Twitter. Take a listen.
And what is significant about April 2020?
I understand that April 2020 is related to the alleged defamatory statements by Mr. Waldman. Well, there were over 1,243,000 and change uses of those hashtags during that time frame you just mentioned.
And did you perform an analysis of the negative hashtags from April 2020 until January 2022?
Yes, I did.
And what was the result of that?
There were over another million, so 2.38 million, I think.
And how did you determine that the tweets were negative about Ms. Heard?
Well, I hadn't been asked that until later on in this, but I didn't think that that would be in controversy. I mean, some of these hashtags are pretty rude, and it would really surprise me that anyone would think that they wouldn't be negative towards Ms. Heard. But when I was asked about it later, I actually took a random sampling and looked at them and could not find any that were not negative towards Ms. Heard.
Was there more negative tweets on April 6th and April 7th than in April 8th, 2020, as it relates to Ms. Heard?
Right. If you look at the day-by-day counts, which I supplied to Mr. Depp, and you can see that there's a spike that begins on April 6th and goes for a few days. So on April 6th is, to my understanding, before what people are calling the alleged defamatory statement.
And did you look at the tweets for April 6th and April 7th?
I did.
And what did you find?
I found that there are Waldman statements that are the same as on the 8th, on the 6th, and the 7th. The Daily Mail on the 6th and Vanity Fair on the 7th.
And what terms were being used?
Well, hoax is certainly used in each of them. I think abuse hoax is used in one of them. I don't have it in front of me, but generally speaking, in the 7th, I think it's the same exact terms that are used in the one on the 8th, but the 6th may be slightly different, but it has the word hoax.
Seems like the PR campaign, right? And what's happening, but Amber Heard claiming that's part of the damage to her was the reaction to these defamatory, untrue statements. Let's bring back in our guest, Susan Constantine, Lamore Mojda. He is Dr. Robbie Ludwood. Dr. Robbie Ludwood, social media, a big part of our world now, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on which side you're on right now. But the response of people on Twitter, whether it's fueled by bots or it's genuinely people's response, in this case, it looks like it goes back to the beginning, that it was always going to be anti-Amber Heard. Why is that?
Well, I think it's probably for several reasons. I mean, we do know that big Hollywood stars certainly have a PR team around them, and that could certainly influence the public. And many people feel very connected to Johnny Depp. They're huge fans. He's been in our lives for many, many decades. He's respected for his talented work in artistry. And women have a tougher time. And there is something about Amber Heard's presentation that doesn't work for her. There's a difficulty in connecting. There's a credibility issue. She is very beautiful, but I don't know if that exclusively is working against her in some regards. I think that she has a problem relating and a problem with being likable. And there's a lot of anger there. We see that with Amber. So the public is not ignorant. They are aware, they do have preferences, and right now we live in a world where people can say anything, whether it's right or wrong. We do see that.
Until you get banned. Lamore, you're not banned
That's
from
right.
TikTok, right? I was looking at the
Not
numbers
right
today. Hashtag Justice for Johnny Depp, which are completely anti-Amber Heard posts or views, 13.6 billion views on TikTok. You're on TikTok. Is that a lot?
That's a lot. That's a lot.
How much damage is that doing to Amber Heard, do you think, out in Hollywood?
The world does not like Amber Heard. And those hashtags, that is just one hashtag. That's just one set of 13 billion views. And, I think that the world of social media is all about trends. So the first person goes out on the internet and says, we hate Amber Heard, they call her names. If it goes viral enough, people will just join that community and that hashtag to get their views up and get their content to go viral, right? It's not really even about what they know or what they think. It's about trends, following trends, being popular, right? Because the most we know about their relationship has come out now. I'm not sure the world really even knew Amber Heard before all of this, right? So I'm not shocked to see billions of views on hashtags like that at this point.
Susan Constantine, I'll give you the last word, but you only have 15 seconds.
Yeah, I would call this a social contagion, right? Just exactly what you're talking about here. You get one group of people are talking, especially these young people, and they all hitchhike off from it. It's a social contagion, and you're guilty just by association.
Great job, Susan Constantine, Lamore Mojdehizad, and Dr. Robbie Ludwig. Thank you all so much. We'll see you again really soon. When we come back, we're going to go back out to Chanley Painter, who's outside the courthouse, will tell us what was happening outside the courthouse today. You don't want to miss it.
actually be my 9th day in the courtroom. Yeah. It's cool. It's been cool. It's been fun. It's been surreal. I've learned how much cooler than I ever really thought Johnny Depp could be, really is. He's so cool. He's very cool, and I have learned that Amber Heard is, Amber Heard needs some serious psychological help. She needs some therapy, in my opinion.
One of the many folks lining up every night to get inside that courtroom the following day. Let's bring in Chanley Painter, who doesn't have to wait on that line. She's got a special court TV pass to get in and out of that courtroom. What can you tell us about those folks who are lining up night after night?
Well, I mean, they're great to get to know. I mean, such interesting stories, why they're here, how they got here, what it takes to be here, and how long they're staying. It's really unbelievable. I mean, Depp has some really dedicated fans. I mean, look at that person sleeping on the sidewalk here at the courthouse. They line up, you know, we showed you the other night, they line up hours, sometimes 24 hours ahead of time to receive a wristband, to be in line, and to have a seat inside the courtroom, coveted seat, and every day, no matter the day, who's on the stand, it fills up. They fulfill all of the 150 spots, you know, inside or the overflow room, always full. And of course, we caught up with them. We actually sent one of our new photographers out in the middle of the night last night, Vinny, to catch up with some of those waiting in line. This is what we found. Let's watch.
It's about 3 a.m. Holding a spot for my pregnant wife so she can hopefully see the Johnny Depp trial from inside the courthouse, be one of the first 100 people.
I'm first in line for the first time. I basically walked out of the courtroom yesterday and got back in line.
And you've been inside the courtroom?
Since day one. I think I've only missed 1 or 2 days because I want him to know I'm behind him. I believe him. I know he's innocent, and I support him all the way. And he needs to have his name cleared, everything go back to normal for him.
At first I just started watching it as like entertainment, you know, nothing serious, but the more I watch it, the more some of them are, I get pulled in to all the lies and everything that has happened.
So what do you think about Amber at this point?
I think she's a liar. I think Johnny should win.
Still an overwhelming majority pro Johnny Depp, as you can tell. We did show you that one. A young man yesterday who supported Amber Heard and wanted the process to be as fair as possible, but they're mostly Johnny Depp fans. There's the line this morning, waiting for wristbands. They really have a system down on week 5. They really worked out the system for how people line up, Vinny.
Yeah, and what I'm noticing, they seem to all be getting along very well. I mean, we had fights breaking out at the courthouse down in Orange County, Florida, especially early on when there's a little more chaos. But these folks really getting along well together. What was the scene like today for the arrivals?
Same, that big crowds wait outside the gate for Johnny Depp to arrive with signs and cheers for him, greeting him with their cell phones, holding them up, wanting to get him on video. They can't, run towards him to shake his hand anymore because there's barricades now, extra courthouse deputies that make sure they stay on the sidewalk with the threat of arrest if they leave it. So there he is arriving outside the gate. You can hear the cheers. And of course, he walks in today. And, Austin, our photographer, is there every morning, every evening. Here's Amber arriving to the courthouse today. Just makes her way in quick, doesn't really look at the camera, acknowledge it, or the fans. Sometimes you can hear them booing, obviously. And then Johnny Depp. Let's listen to this.
Made breakfast for all of them this morning.
Good morning,
Waffles.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, sir. Have a great day. Good morning, sir.
Waffles for breakfast is what he said. He made them all breakfast. That's why they're cheering for him. He was jamming out to, of course, Bob Marley. War was the song this morning, Vinny.
Wow. All right. So at the end of the day, they got to depart. And what you were telling me yesterday is people actually leave the courtroom early to see him on the way out.
They do. They will. You can notice if you look in the gallery kind of in the afternoon, it dwindles down a little bit. The seats aren't as full. That's because they go to the back of the courthouse to await the departure. A bigger crowd in the evenings to ensure that they have a glimpse, get him on video. And the alpacas were back out there too with their signs, their pirate hats. Some are dressed like pirates and some hold signs. One sign read actually, Vinnie, it said, "We can't remain calm. Johnny Depp is here, remain calm." And yeah, we can't remain calm. And that's the crowd. They can't remain calm when Johnny Depp leaves. Amber, of course, sometimes she will depart a different way trying to avert the attention, but today she did go the direction Johnny did through the crowd, but you could hear that in the vehicle she was in, the music was turned up really loud so she couldn't hear the crowd boo her as they drove past what seemed like a couple hundred people lined up on the sidewalk. And she goes really fast. See that? And they drive a lot faster than Johnny Depp.
Chanley Painter at the courthouse. Thanks so much. Don't go away, folks. We'll be right back.
Cashback in everything you buy.
In Fairfax County, Virginia, Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard. Today, Johnny Depp's lawyer takes the stand and talks about what he was telling the press back in 2020.
I filed a claim with the LAPD regarding these perjurious statements.
So what exactly did happen on May 21st, 2016? Was Johnny set up, or did he physically abuse Amber?
No, Johnny, no. And she just got in front of us.
On the docket tonight in Fremont County, Idaho, the Doomsday Mom, Lori Vallow Daybell, accused of murdering her children to be with her new Doomsday Prophet husband, Chad, was back in court, getting ready for her trial. We have a live report. Plus, it is clear there was violence in Johnny Depp and Amber Heard's relationship. So tonight's 13th juror question: what do you think caused the violence? Buckle your seatbelts. This hour of closing arguments starts right now. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thanks so much for joining us here on Closing Arguments. May 21st, 2016. Such an important date. We're coming back to it tonight because it was front and center again inside the courtroom today in Fairfax County, Virginia. Let me remind you about May 21st, 2016. This is the incident that results in Amber Heard eventually, several days later, getting that restraining order against Johnny Depp. This is the one that police responded to twice. So today on the witness stand was a man named Adam Waldman. This is Johnny Depp's attorney. This is the one who filed this lawsuit, by the way. But now he's no longer the attorney on the case. He is a witness. We're going to talk about that in our next segment. But testifying today, he was talking about some statements that he made to the media back in 2020. And it all has to do with what happened on May 21st, 2016, at least what he believes happened on May 21st, 2016. Take a listen.
It says, Adam Waldman, Depp's lawyer, said afterwards, quote, Amber Heard and her friends in the media used fake sexual violence allegations as both a sword and a shield, depending on their needs. They have selected some of her sexual violence hoax facts, quote facts, end of quote, as the sword, inflicting them on the public and Mr. Depp. Do you see that?
I do.
Did you make that statement?
I believe I did.
Depp's lawyer, Adam Waldman, said the various discrepancies prove that nothing Heard and her friends said about the events of May 21, 2016 could be considered credible. Do you see that?
Hearsay.
Then I'm going to direct your attention, Mr. Waldman, to the next statement. Quote, quite simply, this was an ambush, a hoax. They set Mr. Depp up by calling the cops, but the first attempt didn't do the trick. The officers came to the penthouses, thoroughly searched and interviewed, and left after seeing no damage to face or property. So Amber and her friends spilled a little wine and roughed the place up, got their story straight under the direction of a lawyer and a publicist, and then placed a second call to 911. Do you see that statement?
I do.
Did you make those statements?
There are two parts to what you've shown me. The first part didn't have quotation marks around it.
And I'm not asking about that. I'm sorry.
Where it said nothing could be considered credible, that's not quoting me. The part with the quote marks, I believe I said that, yes.
So starting from quite simply through (911), you stated all that. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe so. On May 21st, 2016, and I always view this as one of her central claims. It was the one she put on the cover of People magazine. It's the one she led with when she went to get her temporary restraining order. The phone to the face incident on May 21st, 2016. That's her claim, and that she was further beaten by some appendage of Mr. Depp in the face, and her hair was pulled. And she showed up on the 27th in court with a lot of bruises on her face. So there are 2 police officers, one domestic violence trained female police officer, who've testified over and over and over that there was no damage to the penthouse, which Ms. Heard claimed was destroyed. That's a direct quote, destroyed. There are, that I can think of, 9 other witnesses, the majority of whom are either neutral or actually, well, Ms. Heard's own witnesses, who have testified in various forums, various times, that there were no injuries to her face whatsoever between the 21st and the 27th, when suddenly there were bruises.
Again, that's Johnny Depp's lawyer who filed this lawsuit, now a witness in the case. And he's talking about all the people who testified didn't see the injuries. And we've heard that testimony, right? From Johnny Depp's friend Ike, from the police officers, from the guy who works at the front desk who was deposed while driving his car and vaping. I mean, all these people said they saw no injuries. But he also mentioned Amber's friends who have all testified. So what I want to do right now, that same night, May 21st, 2016, the friends of Amber Heard who were there, the ones who were living in Johnny's penthouses for free, testifying about that night. Let's listen to what they said.
He said to her, "Oh, you think I hit you? You think I hit you? What if I peel your hair back?" And then I heard the phone drop again, and then I heard her scream. I remember her screaming. And I hung up the phone, and I called Raquel immediately because I know that she lives one door away, and her and her boyfriend Josh, who's a big dude, would be able to get there the fastest. And I called her, texted her right away, and I hung up with her and immediately called 911.
He was yelling, and I don't remember exactly what he was saying. And she was calling for help, and that had never happened before, saying, help me. I went and I cut through the space between the coffee table and the sofa. And I went up to him, and he was yelling and yelling, and I put my hands up on his chest, and I was like, stop.
When they arrived, I greeted them at the door. I walked them through PH3 to show them the damage, show them the broken glass. They had already walked through the hallway over the gigantic wine stain throughout the entire hallway. I took them through PH3, like I said, to show them the damage. I took them back out of the hallway, showed them the dent in the door shaped like the bottom of a wine bottle in PH1. Took them into PH5 to see broken picture frames, smashed glass, Raquel's jewelry and things like that strewn about the apartment.
I just remember she looked really upset and disheveled, and her hair was a mess, and she had a swollen face. She had a red, swollen face.
Are you aware of any efforts between and among Rocky Pennington, Io Tillett, Melanie Iglesias, Elizabeth Mars, or Amanda DeCadenet to, quote, get their story straight?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, let's bring in the think tank, try to figure out exactly what happened on May 21st, 2016. Joining us in the Bronx, New York, criminal defense attorney Renee Hill. In Houston, Texas, criminal defense attorney Carmen Rowe. And in Atlanta, Georgia, criminal defense attorney, law professor at Emory University and Georgia Innocence Project Board member Molly Parmer. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Renee, you've got the friends describing one thing. Police saw something else. What happened on May 21st, 2016? Who's committing perjury here?
I think it's really a toss-up, but in this instance, I think you have to go with the police officers. They are the ones who came into the penthouses with body cams on, I believe.
Wait, folks. Let's just wait. I just want all the prosecutors in New York to now hear Renee Hill saying, "You must believe the police." Please continue.
Listen. You can believe them when you see what's happening on the body cam. If there's no body cam, then there's an issue. Okay.
Okay.
Let's get that straight, Vinnie.
Gotcha.
All right.
We're watching the body cam now. Go ahead.
In this instance, there's body cam that shows what the police officers observed when they walked into the penthouse that day. And I think that that's going to have more weight than the testimony of the friends who could be biased in this particular case. So I think you got to go with that.
Yeah, Carmen, they're taking us a step further, saying, listen, there were no injuries that night. There were no injuries until like the day she goes to court, which would mean that they seem to be indicating that they may be some self-inflicted injuries to kind of dress things up for the restraining order. I mean, do people do that?
Vinnie, it's sad, but it's true. It happens all the time. And I have a problem with the fact that there does appear to be a delay and that you have a lawyer who's giving 9 different witnesses that he's sourcing, as well as law enforcement. And then you have all of her friends saying something else. I mean, there's no question the apartment was torn up. There's no question that Johnny Depp has an alcohol problem. There's no question it's a chaotic situation. The only issue, though, is whether or not he actually assaulted her and caused that injury to her face on that day. And I think there's a lot of question about whether that's true or not, particularly in light of what I would say are significant credibility issues with a lot of these witnesses. I mean, people see people for who they are, and I'm not believing everything that's coming out of these witnesses' mouths, especially given their motivation and their connection to Amber Heard in this high-profile lawsuit.
Yeah, there's also some video, Molly, in and out of the elevator. Johnny going in seems okay. Coming out looks like he's a little agitated in the elevator, like something happened in there. Who are we to believe here? Should we discount the friends because they're friends? Should we believe the police?
Well, I mean, I think we discount the friends because they're like hanger-oners, like they have serious credibility issues like Carmen just described. And yeah, I mean, Johnny does seem irritated here, but I think what jurors are gonna do, they're gonna try and connect the dots and put all these pieces together. And it's not just the police body cam, it's 8 other witnesses from a variety of different backgrounds and connections. And I think another thing that's really suspicious to me when it comes to the time between her injury, her going to the court, is that something like redness, that would go away as days go on, right? You might have bruising, but it's the redness that I find very suspect with that self-inflicted injury on Miss Heard.
Okay, Renee, there are a lot of allegations here made by Amber Heard and her attorneys about the abuse, the physical abuse by Johnny Depp. If this jury believes that one of them is a fake, is a hoax, like Adam Waldman was telling the press. If they believe that this is, ginned up a little bit, do you think that they look at each individual one and evaluate it, or say, fool me once, if you don't believe me in this one instance, then I'm not gonna believe anything, or I can't believe anything that you say? Do you think that's the approach, or do you think the approach is, let's look at each instant? Let's look at Australia. Let's look at the Orient Express. Let's look at France. Let's look, you know what I mean?
I think it's going to depend on, for example, which of those incidents they really take issue with. And then they may base that moving forward as to all of the other incidents. But, what they always say, a half truth is a whole lie. So if you lie about one incident, you might be lying about all of the others as well. And there are so many instances here where she proclaimed to be injured and beaten and battered, and she didn't photograph them. We talked about this before. All of the most severe incidents were not documented by her. So I think the jurors will take all of that into consideration. And if they really find one that they say, you know what, this just didn't happen, I can't believe that it happened, or they haven't proven that it happened, I think they may discount all of the others as well.
So, Carmen, there's violence in the relationship, right? I mean, that's clear that it's just bad. It's bad. But I want you to take a listen to, no, I don't have that. Do I have that? Do I have that? No. Oh yeah, we already did that. I'm sorry. I got distracted for a second in my thought. Carmen, here's the bottom line for you. If he's fighting back, right? And I've been asking everybody just about every night of this. If he's fighting back, if she hits first and he hits back, is she a victim of abuse?
We've talked about this before, Vinny. The word victim is a word we use in the law that doesn't mean the same thing as it does to regular people in the world. Of course, she's a victim if she's been assaulted by another person. There's no justification to put your hands on another person. But I think you have two victims here. And I think when two people are assaulted and it's what we might call mutual combat, I think you can still be a victim. And it goes back to, you know, what was the catalyst? What was the cause? Does the law recognize it? And so on and so forth. But in this situation, as you said, I mean, this whole thing is a mess. And at the end of the day, I think that, you know, Amber loses and Johnny wins no matter what, because of all of the credibility issues associated with how she behaved, how she incited him in all these audio and video and all of these things, and how she doesn't have the kind of evidence that she needs to suggest that long-term abuse really did occur, except for this one photo and all the other excuses about makeup and people and things that we just don't have that evidence to show. It's true.
All right, when we come back, I want to talk about Adam Waldman. He was the witness, we just showed you the testament, but that was Johnny Depp's lawyer. How do you go from being the lawyer who is filing the lawsuit and is going to try the case to a witness in the case? We'll figure it out next.
represented Mr. Depp throughout the UK litigation, correct?
Again, I would.
He did. He did. I'll answer it for him. That's Adam Waldman, Johnny Depp's attorney. Now, take a listen to him talking about this case.
It was Mr. Depp's decision on whether to bring the UK lawsuit against the Sun and Dan Wooten, correct?
And again, I would instruct the witness not to answer I would instruct him not to answer because it perforce would require him to disclose attorney-client communications as to the thought process that went into filing that particular lawsuit.
I accept the instruction.
After you began representing Mr. Depp filed suit against Amber Heard, his former wife, correct?
That's correct.
Now, take a look at this timeline because it's very interesting, and I want to understand what it means. We begin in March of 2019. Do we have it? No? Okay. March 2019, Johnny Depp files a $50 million lawsuit against Amber Heard, right? Adam Waldman is his attorney. Then in the spring or summer of 2020, Adam Waldman makes these alleged defamatory statements against Amber Heard in the press. And then you move forward to August of 2020, Heard files a counterclaim against Depp based upon those statements, which then gets Waldman off of the case as the attorney. He ends up being a witness in the case. Let's bring back in our think tank, Renee Hill, Carmen Rowe, Molly Palmer with us. Carmen, your thoughts? Do you think Amber Heard's team did this to get Johnny's attorney kicked off the case, so they have to bring in a whole new team? And by doing so, did they make a mistake, you think, with this new team? A little bit stronger, maybe?
I was going to say, Vinnie, if that's true, too smart by half, because that was a horrible failure, because we've seen this team really take this case to task in a way that the UK case did not go that way. And so it's an interesting twist to see how this played out.
Yeah, I've seen it in other cases, Molly, where, especially in civil litigation, people are so uncivil. The attorneys are always trying to get their adversaries and trying, what can we do to just mess up their case? And I think part of this counterclaim was probably motivated by the fact that we get Waldman out of the case, but no more Waldman. But now you've got, this new team, which is very, very effective. I mean, we saw the cross-examination by Camille Vasquez. It was epic.
Yeah, I love Camille Vasquez. But let me explain something here, because I've been following this for a long time. What actually happened here is that Adam Waldman was admitted pro hoc vice. He's a California lawyer, but he was provisionally admitted in Fairfax, Virginia. And what happened was there was a protective order over some of the discovery documents, and Amber Heard's team accused him of violating it and leaking some of these protected documents through Twitter and through other websites and through the press. And they actually moved for sanctions. But ultimately, he was removed by the judge from the case. Now, at the time, at least one of the attorneys from Brown Rudnick, which is the team representing Depp now, was working the case with him. But I agree. I think it wasn't as savvy as Heard's team thought it would be, because now he gets to be a witness, because it's true, under the rules of ethical conduct, the lawyer cannot be a witness. But now Adam Waldman can be, and he can testify to, basically going to LAPD and taking out a claim alleging Amber Heard committed perjury. So I think it's bolstered his case in a way that maybe even Adam Waldman himself didn't realize when he was ordered removed from his trial.
It does seem to me to be backfiring. Let's take a listen to him talking about going down to the LAPD, because I think that is a pretty big moment.
In that box where it says first on the record statement from me regarding the body cam to RTL, Adam Waldman, Johnny Depp's attorney, is that a statement that you made to a German media outlet called RTL?
Yes.
And in that statement, you say that LAPD have now opened up a criminal investigation into perjury of Ms. Heard, correct?
Yes.
Did you make a correction to RTL when you learned that the LAPD wasn't in fact investigating Ms. Heard for perjury?
Well, the way you've characterized it is not exactly what I would agree with. The LAPD told me that they were investigating the perjury claim at that time. Then sequentially came the statement. Then came notification from the LAPD that it was actually the LA Sheriff's Department that was investigating it, and that was the last I heard about it.
The investigation was opened up at your request after you brought this binder to the desk officer. Is that right?
I didn't ask him to open an investigation. I filed a claim with the LAPD regarding these perjurious statements that Ms. Heard and her best friend Rocky Pennington had made to a court.
Really interesting. Renee, have you ever seen anything like this before where someone representing someone feels like, hey, you've made false accusations against my client, so I'm going to make a claim and go down to the local law enforcement and say, hey, you should be investigating this for perjury?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't personally seen it, but this is a civil matter, and you see a lot of things, a lot different than how they play out in the criminal cases. But it's quite interesting, and I think that it has backfired for Heard's team.
Hey, Carmen, how do you think the jury sees this move by Adam Waldman? Do they see it as a slimy move? Do they see it as someone trying to represent his client's interests and trying to protect his client?
You know, Vinnie, in my practice, I see people lie all the time. And when I catch them as witnesses, complainants, whatever, I constantly pursue the idea that charges should be filed because it's an affront, in my opinion. And so, no, I don't think it should be seen as anything other than just that. If she lied to pursue this TRO or to make allegations against Johnny and he knows that they're not true, I think as an officer of the court, he has an obligation to pursue that, which he did. He didn't do much more than file it, but I think filing it was the right thing to do. And I think most people would see it that way. If you lied to law enforcement for the purpose of gain, I think that you should be charged, or at least it should be investigated. So I think it did the right thing, and I think the jury probably will see it that way as well if they believe she lied.
Molly, how common, and this is a tough question, right? But you guys are in it day in and day out. How common are false accusations made by people who say that they've been assaulted, attacked by someone else? I mean, is this like, you know, once in a while? Is it more often than not? How would you sort of characterize that kind of conduct?
All the time. And what you have to do when you are falsely accused is hire a lawyer like one of the three of us here and fight for your life. But people do this all the time, especially in domestic situations like this. But what makes this interesting here is that if the jury believes what Adam Waldman's saying, that this was a hoax, and he's bolstering that by this perjury claim with the police, then her $100 million defamation claim is dead in the water, because it's entirely based on Adam Waldman's statements that it's a hoax being defamatory against her. So this is huge. He and this testimony alone, I think, has sunk the case, and Amber Heard will not be given any compensatory or punitive damages at all.
All right, and what impact, Renee, do you think this could potentially have on Johnny's claim against Amber going in the other direction?
I think it's going to have a huge impact because, again, this shows that, or it could potentially show that she's made false allegations then. She continued to make false allegations, and therefore what Johnny has indicated in his lawsuit against her is that she lied and then went forward with an op-ed where she put information that was not true. And I think that it definitely goes in his favor all the way.
So, Carmen, let me ask you another question, because this was the testimony of Amber Heard. It's like, you know, this would have to be the most elaborate hoax ever that goes over the course of years. You know, whether you go back to Australia, you go back to 2012, all the way through 2016. So what's the explanation from Johnny Depp if you are claiming that she is making all this stuff up. Why would she do it and document some things over the course of years?
Vinnie, I don't think it's elaborate or anything like that. I think that it's consistent with what you see in a lot of these domestic violence type cases. I mean, there's no question that their relationship was toxic, volatile, and abusive verbally, if not physically in some ways. People were throwing things. There's no question that damage was all around them and that everybody seemed to put up with it. But that doesn't mean that he actually assaulted her on these occasions that she suggests. And again, it goes back to where's the proof of that? Which is why this one, May 21st, 2016 is so critical, because it seems to be the only proof we have. But then we have 9 or more other witnesses who are saying that's not so. That's not exactly how it played out. So I think it's really interesting when you start looking at the evidence versus all of her allegations that he was so mean to her, but she stayed with him, and this went on for years.
Okay, folks, before we take a break this week on the Court TV podcast, Chanley Painter and I dive into Amber Heard's cross-examination and the allegations that Amber committed domestic violence against her former partner. Here's a preview.
You committed domestic violence against Miss Van Reed during your relationship, didn't you?
No, I did not.
You assaulted her at a Seattle airport in 2009, didn't you?
No, I did not.
And it was covered in the press. Isn't that true?
It was planted in the press by Johnny's team 2 days after I got the TRO.
Let's first get to the truth of what happened at that airport in Seattle. Now, someone did see something and she did get arrested, right?
Not just someone, it was the police at the airport who saw it, Vinnie, and made an arrest. That was a big issue and something definitely Depp's team wanted to bring up, and it's a win that was into evidence and she was able to be questioned about that, Vinnie.
The latest episode of the Court TV podcast available now. Listen on Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or CourtTV.com. When we come back, we're taking you on the docket. Another big case, big development in the Doomsday Mom.
haireyewear.com.
This is no longer the search for missing children. This is the search for killers.
This stretches just so beyond what anyone could imagine.
Breaking news in the case against Doomsday Prophet Chad Daybell.
Prosecutors say they will seek the death penalty against him.
Investigators have recovered human remains at Chad Daybell's residence.
There's no way, Morgan. I could never come up with this.
Lori was his follower. Chad Daybell's the prophet.
Chad had a vision, plagues and foreign troops coming to the soil.
Will his wife, Lori Daybell, turn on him?
It's just so hard to know where the truth ends.
All eyes on this Idaho trial.
Big ruling by the judge. The venue changed.
The further away you can get from the scene of the alleged incident, the better off you are.
Think about all the people that had to die and disappear. It's the Doomsday Prophet Chad Daybell on trial. Welcome back, and it's not just the Doomsday Prophet, it's the Doomsday Mom, Lori Daybell as well, or Lori Vallow Daybell. Both of these two indicted and for the murder of her children, who you will recall were found buried in his backyard. Her husband shot and killed by her brother. His wife mysteriously dies. There are now charges related to that as well. This is a case with so many layers and so much happening in it. And Lori Daybell back in court today. Let's bring in Court TV legal correspondent Joy Lim Nacre, who has all the latest today. This is a case unlike any other that we've ever seen. What happened today?
Yeah, so the major headline out of today is that prosecutors are the ones who are asking for Lori Daybell's trial to be continued, pushed back from October to January. This is in order to coincide with Chad Daybell's trial. Right now, the cases are conjoined, but Lori did not waive her right to a speedy trial last month. So legally, it has to be tried within 6 months of her arraignment. Prosecutors argue witnesses and evidence in both the trials are substantially the same. It'll be more cost-effective to hold the trials together. Proceedings expected to last about 10 weeks. Chad's attorney filed a motion in September to sever the trials. The judge ultimately denied that. Here's what Madison County Chief Deputy Prosecutor Tanya Rawlings said in the hearing today.
The court can find good cause to continue Lori Vallow Daybell's trial. As the defense team recognizes in their response, there is a voluminous amount, or I think a mountain of evidence to review in this case. Mitigation experts require significant time to review evidence and prepare argument, and a period of time beyond the 6-month statutory limit lessens the burden on defense counsel to be ready and decreases potential issues on appeal.
So the defense is maintaining Lori does not want to give up her right to a speedy trial, yet at the same time, they are acknowledging that continuing the trial would give them more time to prepare. In court filings last week, Lori's attorneys wrote that her mental health is extremely complex and fragile, so they could benefit from some extra time. Here's what defense attorney Jim Archibald said in the hearing today.
We'll be respectful of the court's decision. Whether it's an October trial setting or not, Mrs. Daybell still wants to exercise that right. She understands we're working hard to get caught up. We're spending a lot of time, and her defense team is spending a lot of time getting caught up, since the state's been involved in this case for over 2 years, and she's been in jail for over 2 years, but her defense team is not. And so, but we're doing all we can.
So Lori instructed her attorneys not to file a request for separate trials, but Vinnie, essentially, I mean, they're playing along with prosecutors, right? I mean, it doesn't harm them to postpone the trial. They don't want to give up. But
she has to waive. She has to waive the speedy trial. They're still not waiving it?
They're not waiving it. They're not waiving it.
They want the judge to make a ruling so they can appeal it that she didn't get her speedy trial. That's
right.
It doesn't make sense. Like, on the one, we're not waiving speedy trial, but we don't want a separate trial, and we could use the extra time. Well, This is weird.
Well, it is weird, but I mean,
inconsistent.
That's a great point. Perhaps it gives them kind of potential grounds for an appeal. And they're kind of banking on the judge making the decision for them, right? Instead of her just waiving her right.
And his trial's not going to be earlier. His trial is always going to be January. Prosecutors are worried about trying it twice. They want them both together, so they point the finger at each other. They don't want them pointing the finger at an empty chair. So prosecutors, they could say it's about the cost and all that. It's not about cost, it's strategy. They want to try them together. It's a stronger case for prosecutors if they're together. If they're separated, it becomes a little bit more difficult to prosecute Lori, because she could say, oh, it was Chad that did it. And then when Chad's by himself and he wants it separated, he said, no, it wasn't me, it was her. It was her. So it's a game. It's a game that they're playing. When is the judge going to make the decision, though? I need to know if I'm flying out to Fremont, Idaho in October or in January or both.
No, I know. Well, that's the question. So the judge actually didn't make a ruling yet on today's hearing and said he was going to put together a written decision, think on it.
That's not an easy one for the judge. I feel bad for the judge. If I'm the judge, I'd say, you're not waiving speedy trial? Get ready for trial.
Yeah, I'm not giving you grounds for an appeal.
Yeah, yeah, all right. Wow, Joy Lim Nakrin, thank you so much. This is a big one. This is another big one here on Court TV. All right, when we come back, time to hear from you, our 13th juror, and we've been saying it. There is violence in the relationship between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. But what do you think caused that violence? To me, that cuts to the heart of this case. Your verdict next.
And have you noticed a certain intensity of Mr. Depp's relationships?
Yes.
And have you ever observed Mr. Depp exhibit any jealousy when he's been in a relationship?
Yes.
And do you remember when?
I go all the way back to my sister-in-law. I mean, he can definitely have a jealous streak in him.
Can you remember any specific examples?
You know, when he was younger, he was jealous of Nick Cage or jealous of Adam Ant because my sister-in-law knew them.
And besides that initial time period, did he ever tell you about any jealousy with any other women or any other times?
Yeah. You know, he brought up a few with Vanessa, which were ridiculous. A lot of it was in his head and not in reality. You know what I mean?
And what about with Amber? Did you ever encounter any talk from JD of jealousy with respect to Amber?
Yeah, there were a couple mentions if she was doing a movie with some guy or stuff like that.
In terms of jealousy, would anything make Mr. Depp more bothered or less bothered?
Like I said, it would if she was on a film or doing something that he couldn't be around it to see what was going on. I think he'd work himself up, you know.
Call our helpline now.
He's just a jealous man, controlling. Where are you going? Who are you going with? What did you do last night? I had a scratch on my back once that got him very, very angry because he insisted it came from me having sex with a person who wasn't him.
During the time that you were in a sexual relationship with Mr. Depp, was it common for him to say things to you about being controlling, to use your words, or being jealous of you?
Yeah, very common.
And when, in these instances, when Mr. Depp became jealous or controlling, did he also become angry?
Yeah, and demanding.
Ellen Barkin testifying in the case via video deposition, a former sexual partner of Johnny Depp's. And she made that very clear in her testimony. It was not a romantic relationship, it was a sexual relationship back in the mid-90s. Anyway, I played that because one of the themes from the defense that we're hearing is that jealousy turned to rage, turned to violence. That's what caused the violence in this relationship between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. That's what Amber Heard's team is saying. I asked you, though, what do you think? What caused the violence in this relationship? We begin with our 13th juror comment of the day from Sarah. Drugs, alcohol, jealousy, too much time and money for them to manage, psychological scars from childhood. Could they have really loved each other in the beginning? The lust wore off, reality set in, perfect storm. Let's bring back to the think tank Renee Hill, Carmen Rowe, Molly Palmer. Molly Palmer, if it is in fact the perfect storm, what does that mean in terms of verdict, if it's all of these things that's causing the violence in the relationship?
Well, remember, we have these two competing defamation trials happening at the same time, and the jury could conceivably find for neither of them. They could say, look, both of you are responsible for the mess that was this toxic relationship, and neither of you are getting a single cent. So, I think that that's not only a possibility, but a fairly likely one, to be honest.
And it could be a no. And don't come back to Fairfax County, Virginia either. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Cindy tonight, definitely the drug and alcohol abuse on both sides. They just fed off each other's insecurities. Renee, have you seen insecurity in the relationship here?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And you definitely see it with Amber. Because anytime Johnny would try to leave, she didn't want him to leave. And I think that several witnesses expressed that as well. I don't know so much that you see insecurities with Johnny.
He was jealous of Adam Ant.
He was a jealous person.
Wait.
Hold on a second.
He was jealous. Johnny Depp was jealous of Adam Ant. Adam Ant. He was a talent, I get it. But it's Adam Ant, and he's Johnny Depp.
So he did have insecurities in that aspect. He's definitely, from what we hear, a very jealous man. And so they both had it, And then, like we've been saying all along, this relationship was extremely toxic. You cannot get around that every which way. But
I can't, don't drink, don't smoke. What do you do? And he's jealous of Adam Ant. Heather tonight. Jealousies, insecurities, and being surrounded by people that didn't help remove the toxicity. Carmen Rowe, what do you think about the people who were around? Do you think someone should have stepped into this relationship? They went to a marriage counselor. Her sister was like the unofficial marriage counselor. Do you think people should have done more, or do you think these two just should have grown up and realized they were wrong for each other?
Vinnie, should have or could have? I mean, these are superstars who have more money than we could ever imagine, and they have the privilege to do whatever they want. So you tell me no, and I say goodbye, I'll get someone else to replace you. So no, I don't think it was real to ever step in and stop this from happening. And, you know, this is part of the Hollywood lifestyle, and we all know it. But I do think this was a perfect storm, as Sarah said, of excess, of just too much, no supervision, no limitations, with two very toxic, troubled people who happened to find each other in this beautiful moment that lasted this many years. And we're all seeing it here on the front row as it all played out over the last couple of years. And it's sad, but I think it's you know, these huge egos, lots of insecurity, lots of privilege, lots of excess.
Billy Idol. I could understand if he was jealous of Billy Idol, right? Billy Idol. But Adam Ant, Renee Hill, Carmen Rowe, Molly Palmer. Thank you so much. We'll see you again real soon. All right, before we go tonight, folks, important. I have a picture to show you. This is Michaela Popio, missing from Youngstown, Ohio since April 20th of this year. She's only 12 years old, so please take a look at Michaela. If you see her, call 911, 1-800-THE-LOST, or you can call the Youngstown Police Department there in Ohio. Let's see if we can get her back to safety. That is it. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Vinnie Politan. Have a great night. And don't forget to hug the kids.